In 2023, I purchased a house with the full intention to flip. I put it on the market and it didn't sell. On top of that, I tried to rent it out and it didn't even rent. Here's how I got out of it. What's up, good people? I'm Darian. I am a traveling real estate investor that is building and scaling a service business along the way. Today, I'm going to be talking about how I purchased a property with the full intent to flip. 4 months later, put it on the market and it did not sell. Here's the details about this deal. We bought this property at $115. Planned renovation was $65,000, all-in cost $180,000. Here's how we financed this property. We used a hard money lender. They financed 90% of the project cost, which was $180, and we were responsible for bringing 10% down. With the fees and also commission, so on and so forth, that down payment was $28,331. I linked up with the private money lender. She was able to bring $14,000 and I brought in the remaining $14,331. Here's the plan for the renovation. This is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house. We are planning to expand that half bath to a full bath by adding a full-on shower. And to do that, we had to remove the closet in the master bedroom, add that shower, and then build out another closet in the master bedroom. We updated the kitchen by putting brand new floors, countertops, hardware, as well as cabinets. We updated both of the bathrooms by putting new floors, tub, finishes, cabinets. There was a couple unexpected things that happened that increased our budget. One being we had to remove a tree, and I'll talk about that during the sale of the house. Another thing we had to do was we had to fix the driveway outside of the house. And that began to add up. Reason being is the contractors, there was a miscommunication, and they not only removed the front driveway, but they also demoed the back patio deck, which I had to rebuild a retaining wall and also fill it in with crushing mud, which added on another $10,000. The driveway itself was $7,000. The tree removal was $5,500, which made us go over budget. I live in Atlanta and we have a lot of modern homes that's painted blue, and I decided to have like a red door. That was my signature touch. It was like my Picasso signature. Of all my houses that I renovated, they all had a red door or a colored door. So when I drive by, I can say I renovated that house because that door is red. Completely ego driven. What I figured out was I'm not going to live in that house, so my opinion on the design and finishes does not matter, and I need to renovate according to what the market and people are buying. This is not an art show. So we listed this house. Comps were coming in between 230 to around 250. We decided to list it at 245 even. Crickets. Nobody wanted to see the house. We had a couple showings, but no offers. This went on for about 2 weeks. No offers. This goes on for another 2 weeks, 4 weeks total. No offers. As we were showing this house, we were getting some feedback. The closet is too small. This huge tree. The neighbor's house is not too appealing. Those were the 3 points. So we decided to address those. So we took down the tree. Boom, $5,500. We put it back on the market. Still nothing. The feedback we were getting was, we like the house. It looks good, but nobody wanted to have the blue house on the block. So we decided to paint the house. That was $2,800. We painted it a white with peanut butter accent color. Put it back on the market. Crickets. It increased the show rate, but we did not get an offer. The next feedback point we were getting was, hey, these closets, they're a little bit too small for the master bedroom. I sat with that for maybe about 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then we decided to expand the closets. We expanded the closet. That was about $1,800. Things continued to add up. We expanded the closets, and then we decided to drop the price again. We dropped it to $230, put it back on the market. Crickets. Had a couple showings, no offers. And at this point, we're about 3 months in, and the listing is getting stale. People are now looking at this listing and saying, for 4 months, something is wrong with this. I'm going to move on to the next house. So at this point, we had 2 feedback points that were standing. One being the neighbors. I had a conversation with them, telling them, hey, can we, make this a little bit more appealing? I try to say it as polite and professional as possible, but that's not something I can really control. I even went as far as cutting their grass, offering to pressure wash their house just to update the appeal of the house. Nothing. The only thing left was to address this closet. Now, with this closet, we had to expand this out about 2-3 feet to the left and the right, and also about 2-3 feet from the front face. So we did. That took about 2 weeks. That's counting the materials, that's counting the labor, that's counting lining things up with the contractor, and also fixing some of the things that he did not do appropriately from the first contractor. So now we had an expanded closet, a tree that was cut down, and also a white house. It looks completely different. We put it back on the market for $219. We took a $10K price drop, and you guessed it, crickets. crickets. A little bit of showings, but still no offers were present. What do you do when you have a house that you have been pouring money into that's not selling, that's been listed for collectively about 4 to 5 months, and also your hard money loan is ending in about 60 days? At that point, I decided to pivot. Now we turned this house that was supposed to be a flip, and I considered, what about if we go rent this thing out? So we put it on Zillow, we put it on apartments.com, we put it out to be rented, to be leased at $1,600. Crickets, nothing. We even dropped the price down to $1,500 after consulting with a local property management company, and he mentioned that people in Augusta, they don't just have $1,500 for rent and an additional $1,500 for first month's rent for a security deposit. That's almost $3,000. Unfortunately, in that area, that demographic does not have around $2,800 to $3,000 to fork out. But my note was ending. So what I had to do was what's called a refinance, which is when one bank buys the existing mortgage. So with a product called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service coverage ratio, where they compare what the market rent will be and they compare that to what the monthly debt will be. And from there, you get a coverage ratio. In this example, the coverage ratio that I needed to meet was 1.1. So the monthly debt is roughly going to be around $1,400. That means I needed to bring in around $1,500 to about $1,600 if my math is correct. I get with the lender, and my goal was to refinance out at 80% LTV, which is loan to value, which means, let's say this house appraises for $230 or $240. They take 80% of that, and that'll be the new loan. And then they'll pay off the existing loan at $162. That spread, that is what will be cash back in my pocket. I explained to this lender what I'm looking for, that I'm looking for 80% LTV, cash out, refinance, which is really, really hard to come by, but he was willing to work with me. Submitted documents, went through the whole process. 2-3 weeks later, the appraisal comes back at 208, which is a no-go. Because if we refinance out at 75% of 208, it's actually below the 162 mark that we needed to be at to pay off the existing loan. So the lender, he came up with a good idea of, hey, let's try to fight this. Let's bring up some other comparable sales and show it to the appraisal board. And let's see if we can fight this thing to get it at the price that we're looking for. That entire process took about 2 weeks. During that time, clock is ticking on my end. So roughly every single month, I was spitting out $1,800 to about $2,200 just to hold this property. During this 2-week interim of getting this appraisal back, well, the reappraisal back, I decided to reach out to another lender to see if he can help out. Within 2 days, we were able to set when the appraisal was going to come, and he was planning to come within about a week and a half. Mind you this, every single appraisal is $750. First one, $750. Second one, $750. For this house, it's just $1,500 in appraisals that was paid. At this time, I get word from the first lender and basically says, yeah, we can't change it. And at that point, I had to dismiss with him, go with the second lender. The appraisal came back for the second lender, and it was $228,000, $20,000 more than the very first appraisal. Instantly, I thought, how in the world can a house, same location, same house, same quarter, really only about 30 to 45 days difference, is worth $20,000 more? And that's when I realized that appraisals and also appraisers are completely subjective. Mind you this, 8 doors down, 2 months ago, I sold a house for $245 with the exact same floor plan. But we'll take what we got. 228 is the number. The lender came back and said they can't do 80%, but they can do 76%, which leads me right above of that 162 after you take it all out of all of the fees. So at this point, I'm going through the process of this refinance and I'm not getting a renter. So I decided to do a Hail Mary. There are a lot of traveling nurses that comes into town. It usually stays upwards of 3 to about 6 months. So I figured, let's furnish this thing and let's turn it into a midterm rental. Worst case, we can also capitalize on the Masters Week. During the Masters Week, that's where people in Augusta really have the ability to generate some money. I mean, I heard stories about people renting out their entire house for $1,200 a night or even $3,000 a night, depending on the size of it. So I figured, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's furnish this thing. $9,500 later, we furnished this thing, worked with the local designer. We were able to turn the flex room into a home office and also furnish all of the rooms. and we listed it on Furnish Finder and also Airbnb with a minimum of 30 days. Crickets. A couple people inquired about the property, but nobody's serious. On the refinancing side, we finally are starting to make some traction. We're starting to narrow down when this thing is planning to close. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel to get out this hard money note, which is due right around 45 days. And then Hurricane Helene happens. Hurricane Helene was the most devastating storm that Augusta has faced within the last probably decade. It rained so much it started to saturate a lot of the trees and the roots inside of the city. And because of this, many trees fell over, and these impacted cars, these impacted power lines, in which cut power throughout the whole city. And it was completely devastating. Personally, when I hear about different hurricanes and I hear how severe they are or how severe they're planning to be, I kind of look past it. And that's what I did for Hurricane Helene. But I was talking to a couple of friends that's in the Augusta market, and they were telling me, hey man, this is pretty bad. So I did my research. I looked at a video on YouTube that was showing how severe the storms are, where this newscaster, she's just showing all of the damage around the city. And at one part of the video, they actually show the road that my house is on, and it is completely demolished. At that point, my heart sunk. I decided to call my property manager and told her, hey, we need to get eyes on this ASAP. She went over there within 2 hours. My phone starts to blow up with pictures, but they can't load. She gives me a call. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? She's like, the house is fine, but a tree fell over. Okay. Did it hit the house? She's like, no, it didn't hit the house. It just hit the neighbors and your fence, but the house is still intact. That was a huge relief because I'm like, how bad can this thing continue to get? But here's where the story gets interesting and the silver lining of all of this. Because this storm was so severe and a lot of homeowners lost their homes, they decided to file claims with their insurance company, and their insurance company works with relocation temporary housing companies. And what their job is to find houses that's available, that's furnished, and pay a premium to get these displaced homeowners into a home while their home is being renovated, constructed, which can take upwards of 3 to 6 or 9 to 12 months. Luckily, Oak Ridge was one of the homes that actually was left standing. We had a tree in the backyard, but the house was completely fine. Once we got the power on, it was 1000% livable. So within that first week of the storm, my phone started to ring. Relocation companies, they were seeing my listing on Airbnb and also Furnish Finder, asking, hey, is this house still available? Is it still standing? That following week, I was getting a call from a relocation company every single day, at least 2 to about 4 of them, and also emails. So at this point, I saw the opportunity. I needed to find a 6-month lease. I was able to work out a deal with the relocation company for a tenant that's displaced for Oak Ridge. For reference, the market rent in that area is $1,500, and I couldn't even get that. This was a huge win. We were able to sign the lease, documents submitted. Now, this refinance was lining up. We were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Documents were being submitted. We got the appraisal back, and now we're in the fourth quarter to get this thing completed. Because of the storm, the courthouses were closed. The lending agencies, they weren't open. And also the closing attorney office was closed as well, which we had to push back the closing another week. Now at this point, this is lined up, fortunately, directly to where my note has ended. I reached out to my hard money lender, told him the situation, that we're in a state of emergency in Augusta, Georgia. Do you have any grace to extend this maybe for another 2 weeks? Here's the docs. We're planning to close this thing. They politely said, nah, bro, we're going to need our money. I said, all right, cool. So I had to file an extension. You pay an additional $500. We keep the existing terms for the note, and we'll give you another 3 months. I said, fine, let's do it. Now let's talk about the numbers of this deal. I bought this house for $115,000, and it was allotted $65,000 from my hard money lender to complete the renovations. There was a overage of the renovations that totaled up to $83,000. This is for the tree removal. This is for the closet expansion. This is for rebuilding the back deck with the retaining wall and some other renovations that went a little bit over. Also, I have to account for the $9,500 that was spent to turn this into a midterm rental. So that's furniture, cost of labor. That totals up to $92,500. If I compare that 92,500 minus that 65 grand that was allotted by the hard money lender, that's an overage of 27,500. Down payment for this property was $28,331, and that was funded by 14,000 from a private money lender with their agreement of 20% return when the property is either sold or refinanced, and also $14,331 that came out of my pocket. That grand total is $48,631. That's cash in the deal. Now, breaking it down to the refinance portion of it, the total appraised value of this property is $228,000. The lender said that he can't do 80%, but he's able to do 76% of 228,000 is 173,280. That's going to be my new loan amount, which will pay the existing loan at 162. That difference of 11,280, that's roughly going to be $8,280, which is leaving a balance of $3,000 for a net cash distribution. If we take that net cash distribution of 3,000 and we subtract it from the 48, the total cash that's being left in this deal is $45,631. Now, if I take that 5,500 and put it over that 45,600, that equals my cash on cash return of 12%. That's basically saying if I have 45 grand just sitting around and I put it into some wealth generating or interest bearing vehicle, it's going to generate around 12%, which relatively isn't bad. Now, if I take that 45,631 and put it over the appraised price, which let's call it the purchase price of 228,000, that equals 20%. So in layman's terms, it's like I put 20% down on an investment property that can generate a 12% cash on cash return, which that means I would get my money back in around 8 years and a couple months. Looking at it like that, it makes the blow easier to take. Obviously, this was supposed to be a flip, but it's turning out that I'm going to be keeping an asset with these figures. And in real estate, what I learned is you have to pivot. This was an example that it was a lot of pivot from a flip to a long-term rental to a midterm rental. The goal for this is to, in the next 4 years, continue to cash flow on this thing, collect as much money as I can every single month. And at the end of those 4 years, have the conversation and the consideration of either selling or refinancing and pulling some more cash out. Obviously, when this first happened, I wasn't too happy about it. I wasn't too excited about it. But within this last 12 months, I really had time to digest it all, take it for what it's worth, and just realize that's just part of the game. You know, if you're going to make millions and millions of dollars, you're going to have to lose thousands of dollars. And luckily, in this example, I'm not losing money. I'm just displacing money and leaving it in the asset. And as long as this thing can generate cash or surplus of money, it's just a waiting game. I made this video just to document this. I don't want to just document all the good times and so on and so forth. I had success with a couple flips and also some long-term rentals as well as some other real estate ventures. But I wanted to document this because this isn't going to be the last deal. As long as you can hold on and you're not sinking, you will prevail. Because within 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years, this property will be worth more than 228. It's facts. So it's just a ride now. It's just holding on tight, stacking your reserves. For me, it's about basing your wins and your losses over a 5 to about a 10 year to 15, 20 year horizon. And I came to this conclusion when I'm driving back from Augusta and I'm talking to a buddy and he gave me a frame shift. And he was like, the point that we're at now, we're always going to be renovating a house for the rest of our life. Whether it's renovating a house, whether it's investing in a house, whether it's trying to find a tenant, whether it's trying to find financing, whether it's refinancing a property, for the rest of our lives, that's what we're going to be doing. And I kind of sat back and thought about it. Just like, man, this deal in the grand scheme of things is going to be so small over the course of 15, 20, 30 years. In 20 years, when I'm 51 and I'm looking at this, it's going to be like, man, I remember when I left 48 grand into that deal. That's cute. You know, it's going to be the type of problems and the type of situations and the type of investments that I'm going to be facing in 20 years from now is going to be way bigger than this. This is going to be laughable. So I wanted to document this to show and document the lessons that I've learned and also this whole entire experience, because I know it's going to be more wins to come. So if this helps, Feel free to like the video and subscribe. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be dropping some more content. Hopefully it can help a couple people. Good luck on your real estate journey. I'm going to be putting out some more videos about health and wealth and freedom. Thanks for watching. Peace.